Hey, I'm a foreigner trying to make a living farming in Korea. Today I'm going to be talking about some crazy things that happen in Korean rural areas that you won't believe. A lot of people think Korea is a super civilized place with low crime, but in rural areas, lawless free land where anything goes, anything can happen. I got inspired by talking about this is when my friend that grows organic garlic passed me this as a present. They had a bigger than normal harvest. I might show you that farm at another time. And I'm gonna just be talking about some experiences I've had or experiences some of my friends have had. Won't be naming any names, and I won't be naming any farms or any towns because Korea's got some insane libel laws and I don't want to get sued. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be peeling this and cleaning it because I intend to turn this into fermented garlic honey. Now this is very expensive, so I don't think this is worth just chopping up and cooking with. I think it's worth making something more special with it because this is organically grown garlic and it's pretty rare to find something like that in Korea. So this is the story about a guy that moved to the rural area and he had a small house and a farm, and he wanted to put up some greenhouses and he wanted to till his land. So he was there for a few days, and the town elder, the head of the town, it's not like the mayor, but it's called the 이장님 of the town, came past. I'm not exactly sure how to explain the politics of that, but they're like considered the head of the town, like a town representative. They're considered. So this person came and they had some tea together and they sat and they spoke for a couple of hours, and eventually the town rep told the guys like, hey, you're new to the town. It's customary if you come to the town to give a donation to the town. And the guy thought, hey, that's not a big deal. I can spare $50, maybe $100 for the town. That's not a big deal. But then it turns out the guy wanted actually several $1,000s as a donation to the town. And my friend thought that was a little bit suspicious, like you just come to normal town and some person says, hey, give me a few $1,000s. So they kind of told him to get lost. Little did my friend know, that was a big mistake. Dun, dun, dun. My friend had to go back to his house in the city to go wrap up a few things, turn off the utilities, do various things. And then when he got back to his farm, there was a huge problem. The townspeople took their tractors and their bulldozers and their plows and all their farm equipment, and they just blocked the road that goes to his house. He could not access his house. He couldn't even wiggle his way through the equipment to get to his house. They completely blocked the road. Was not their first rodeo. So what he did was he went to the police station to make a complaint saying, hey, these people are blocking the road. Or what do I do? So the policeman came to the road, and the policeman had one look at the tractors and one look at the road and said, well, I can't do anything. This is a private road, so it's not a public road. So this is a civil issue. So take it to the court. And the guy was like, okay. So he went and went to talk to the town representative. And long story short, he ended up paying a few $1,000s in a donation to the town. And not long after, all those farm equipment and tractors and bulldozers disappeared from the road. That's the one story. Now, not long after, this guy decided to grow a very special crop in Korea. Well, I don't want to tell you what crop it is because you could probably research and Google the person and the town that he lives in. So instead of the crop that he's growing, I'm just going to say he's growing some flowers. A special kind of flower that is not native to Korea and is commercially used a lot all over the world. So he spent a lot of money building his farm, doing research. I'm not sure if I should say this, but he even kind of specialized so much into this one product that he became a professor, a consultative professor at one of the universities. in the town. And he grew his crops, and after a couple of years, he really nailed down his process. He was able to grow these flowers amazingly well, and he had such a high quality that he could actually export them, which is amazing because Korea is not known for growing this specific flower. Then what happened is he had a really good harvest, but now for him to export it, he has to first store it after he harvested his flower. And he bought a very expensive walk-in cold storage space where he stored all the flowers. Not long after, one day when he came back from, I don't know, he probably went on a few days away, whatever, after working so hard on harvesting all these flowers, he came back, and it was kind of weird because the door of this cold storage was not closed properly, and he was very concerned because maybe all of his flowers got destroyed by the heat. But when he went in to inspect, he realized that his entire crop was gone. It was several $1,000s worth of flowers, maybe even more, even tens of thousands of dollars worth of flowers just gone. He had CCTV, but the CCTV cameras and everything just got taken with it, and everything got destroyed. So he had no evidence that his flowers were taken. He went to the police, and the police said, well, you have no evidence. There's no CCTV, there's no recording of what happened, so we can't help you. But not long after, when he was searching online, he saw that specific flower being sold on the farmers markets online. And turns out it was someone that was a competitor to him, started selling the exact same flower in the exact same quality that he was growing. And turns out that's the same person that came and installed the CCTV for him. It was the same person that installed the CCTV for him. CCTV.
What is a CCTV?
CCTV. CCTV.
Yeah.
CC, the closed circuit television. And it was the same person that installed the CCTV for him.
It's like TV.
All right, so news story. This is not good for my hay fever. So news story. There was a young couple, also moved to the rural area and decided they want to start farming. And them not knowing about any of the shenanigans and the cultures of the rural area, they met with what they call a budongsan, so it's like a real estate agent. And this real estate agent seemed kind and friendly and everything in the beginning. Dun, dun, dun. But no, it's bad. It's not good. So they went around meeting all the real estate agents and consultants, property consultants, and they met at this one real estate agent, told them, oh, he can find them a really good property at a really good price. So the property was significantly cheaper than what normally a farm property would go for. So let's say a farm property goes for about $300,000-$400,000. He said that he can get them for a farm property for about $250K, which in Korea, a decently sized farm property that's unheard of. Now, on this property, there was a small house, but the house hasn't been lived in for years. So it was one of those houses that probably got built before the war and just was never maintained. So for them to be able to live in this house, they had to drop another like $50,000-$60,000 to upgrade the structure, put in proper plumbing, put in electricity, put in a gas line. And this also involves them laying all the cabling and laying all the piping from the municipality that they had to pay for. They decided not to go with solar. So they did this giant construction. They also had to upgrade the road going to their house. So that also added to the costs. So they were close to like $80,000 into this property. And then they decided that they are gonna put up greenhouses. Because in Korea, if you want to grow anything in winter, you got to have a greenhouse because it snows a lot and it gets pretty cold. So they probably put in another few $100,000, no, not 300,000, like a couple of tens of thousands of dollars into this property, getting their property and farm and land to a place where they can actually, make any money. But then they saw that there's some land next to their house where it wasn't being used. It was just lying fallow. So they contacted the landlord, and the landlord directed them back to the real estate agent, where they said, oh, you can rent this property from the landlord and you just have to pay a monthly fee, a yearly fee of like $20,000 or something, maybe less. I'm not exactly sure about the price, the amount. But in the meantime, the landlord contacted them and said, hey, I'm really old. I have this farm work and chores and some harvesting that I need you to do. Can you come help me? And then being a young couple and wanting to be good people, they said, sure. But then the landlord said, hey, look, I'm old and I'm not very rich. I can't really pay you to do this. So I can only pay you like half of minimum wage to do this. It's probably less than half of minimum wage to do this. And they wanted to be good neighbors, so they said, okay, whatever you can afford to pay us, we'll pay you. So normally, I think minimum wage is around $10. So he ended up paying them about $4 or $5 an hour for their labor, and they worked there for about a week. And for the entire week, I think the landlord paid both of them about $50 for a week's worth of work. Now, this is not the end of the deal, end of the, it's not end of the world. You're helping your neighbor and they only pay you a certain amount. Farmers do favors for each other all the time. You borrow my tractor, I help you harvest that. You come help me with my pipe breaks. It's normal things that people in rural areas do to help each other, because rural living can be pretty tough. But this was a sign that my friends should have taken note of, because after this they complained to the landlord that, hey, look, you paying us this amount is not really cool. Things started changing in the town. So after they were living there a few months, a government worker showed up. And the government worker said, why are you farming here? And why are you building here? And why are these greenhouses here? And the couple said, well, we're the landlord, we're the owners here. We want to farm here. And the government worker said, well, you can't. This is nature reserve. This isn't farming land. This has been zoned nature reserve. This is illegal. You have to take everything down. And they went to court, and the court said, can't rezone this land. This is not farming land. So they kind of got scammed. And also turns out the land that they borrowed and paid the landlord for wasn't even his land. And all the money and contractors' money and money they paid for the land was all scam, because even though they paid the $200K for the land was probably only worth like $10K at the end of the day. And they just got scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they have very little recourse, because what can you do?
Not just the rural stuff. The program I'm on, the 청년 농업인 thing, like the youth farmer thing, they get people to join, and then they give out loans, right? Big loans, so that they can start. And then the greenhouse they rent out to them. For them to rent it out, they have to pay like oil, right? So they can get the ownership of this ready-made greenhouse. But then a year later, typhoon came and everything went to shit. And then the government wouldn't repair it. So after a year, they are left with like a huge smart farm with nothing working in it. And they are like in a big debt, and there's no farm to produce anything. And then the government was like, well, can't do anything. The contractors.
Sounds about right. Ooh, butterflies. Ooh.